distinguished chairman, thank him for the job he's doing as chairman of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. I once served in that position. I know how important it is to defend our veterans so vigorously. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that leadership. But I want to thank the ranking member as well for his support and of this important piece of legislation. Let me just begin. You know, today the House of Representatives has the opportunity to further recognize and honor one of the bravest and most highly decorated combat soldiers of World War II, Leonard G. Bud Lomell, by naming the new Veterans Outpatient Clinic in Toms River, New Jersey, in his honor. While Bud Lomell passed away in 2011 at the age of 91, his dear wife Charlotte is turning 104 in September, and she and her family deeply loved Bud and continue to deeply cherish his memory. I spoke to Bud's youngest daughter again, Renee, again this morning, and they are very pleased that Congress is poised to honor him today. I also want to extend my special thanks to former Toms River Mayor and retired Admiral Mo Hill for originally coming up with this idea to name the clinic for Bud Lomell, as well as his incredible advocacy on behalf of Bud and his family. On June 6, 1944, D-Day, First Sergeant Bud Lomell of D Company, 2nd Ranger Infantry Battalion, and his Army Rangers were tasked with the nearly impossible mission of scaling the 100-foot cliffs at Point du Hoc and to destroy the Germans' 155-millimeter artillery guns, which have a range of between 10 and 15 miles, that threatened the entire invasion, which they believe were positioned at the top of the cliffs. Bud Lomell and his Rangers, upon successfully climbing the cliffs, despite heavy casualties, Bud, I note parenthetically, was actually wounded leaving the landing craft, but tenaciously continued and said in one interview, "I lost half my guys." But they were dismayed to find, when they got to the top of the cliffs, that the Allied military intel was misled by decoys and that the entire invasion was now at risk. First Sergeant Lomell and another Ranger, Sergeant Jack Kuhn, found the 5 guns camouflaged in a nearby orchard. He discovered they were all aimed at Utah Beach, although they could easily reach Normandy as well. With Kuhn, remember, they have a 10 to 15-mile range. They could have taken out ships, landing craft, and, of course, the infantry soldiers and others making the beachheads. With Kuhn providing cover, Bud Lomell used thermite grenades to single-handedly destroy 3 of the Nazi big artillery guns, then got more thermite grenades and went back and destroyed the other 2. 5 massive artillery guns were utterly destroyed, ultimately helping to ensure the success of the Allied invasion and saving countless lives. Historian Stephen Ambrose has described Bud Lomell as a single individual besides Supreme Allied Commander Dwight D. Eisenhower as the most responsible for the success of D-Day. In his book, The Greatest Generation, Tom Brokaw devoted an entire chapter to Bud Lomell, who he first met 40 years after the invasion of D-Day, and he noted that during their interview, even after several decades, he could almost, this is his words, almost see the tough young First Sergeant Lomell directing his men as they landed under the withering fire of German forces. For his amazing leadership and extraordinarily brave acts, Bud Lomell received the Distinguished Service Cross, as we all know, the 2nd highest military decoration. The citation said, in part, First Sergeant Lomell led a patrol of men through the heaviest kind of automatic weapons fire to destroy an enemy machine gun nest. Later on the same day, while leading another patrol, he penetrated through the enemy lines to the rear and discovered the 5 enemy 155-millimeter guns. He gallantly led his patrol against the enemy and successfully destroyed the guns. First Sergeant Lomell's bold and outstanding leadership in the face of superior numbers is in keeping with the highest traditions of the military forces of the United States and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Army. Lomell also received a rare battlefield promotion to 2nd lieutenant, and it was said that there was, quote, not a man who did not feel proud to serve with him. 6 months later, Bud Lomell served in the Battle of Hurtgen Forest, where he and Company D helped capture and defend the notorious Hill 400, which had claimed, I should say, thousands of his fellow service members' lives. He subsequently received the Silver Star for his valor in combat, and that citation says, in pertinent part, conspicuously leading from the front, Lomell directed the successful defense of the hilltop in the face of nearly overwhelming German counterattack midday. Refusing shelter and at risk of life, with blood oozing from his ears, nose, and mouth, firing his machine gun cradled in his bandaged left arm with his right hand, he continued to lead his men against another ruthless German assault throughout the entire afternoon. Close quote. What an amazing, amazing hero. He was wounded at Hürtgen and again several weeks later at the Battle of the Bulge. In addition to the Distinguished Service Cross and Silver Star, Bud Lomell received other awards, including the Bronze Star, Purple Heart with 2 Oak Leaf clusters, and France's highest medal, the Legion of Honor. And that's just some of the most remembered ones. There were others as well. As was pointed out by my colleagues, he became an unbelievably effective lawyer, had his own law firm, was very active in the community in Ocean County, and he was even the head of Veteran Services in Ocean County, one of the first person to take on that position. As President Reagan famously said in his speech at Pointe du Hoc, the men who invaded Normandy, including and most especially Bud Lomell, this applies to, had faith that what they were doing was right, faith that they fought for all of humanity, faith that a just God would grant them mercy on this beachhead or on the next. They were men who took to the cliffs. They were the champions who helped free a continent. They were the heroes that helped end a war. In enduring gratitude to them, I ask my colleagues to vote for this legislation and yield back to my distinguished colleague the balance of my time.